What's up, WWE Champions Universe? This is Lee from Champions Chat, and we're back with our second of this kind of weird hybrid thing that I wanted to try doing, which is we have an old set of podcast episodes that didn't make it onto YouTube. It was back when we just recorded them specifically via a cell phone call on a set of AirPods as the microphone. And we didn't post them to YouTube. We didn't even record video on them yet. So there are these older episodes of the podcast that people are still interested in. And it's kind of neat to hear how things were, your days of humble beginnings, how it all started, whatever you want to call it there. But I also have a good number of polls, like key polls, little 7 polls I've done here and there, or even like one-off polls that I've done and recorded, but didn't actually like post anywhere. And so this video is going to be one of our episodes. It's our 3rd ever episode called You Gotta Have a Roster Strategy, from all the way back in June of 2023. And we're talking about how to get your in-game resources, how to minimally spend to get your maximum impact out of your budget for this. Plus, you're going to see a whole bunch of just random pulls happening right over here. So let me know what you think of these videos. Is this fun? Is this interesting at all? Do you watch these videos and then use them as the, 1 hour of pulls in order to go to sleep to? You know why they make those videos? Oh, look at that. Balloons and confetti. You know why they make those videos? Because it's a way to trick you into watching the whole thing and never skipping ads. So yeah, watch our video playlists and then just go to sleep to them. That's a great way to help us out. All right, let's get into it. Here you go. Oh.
What's up, WWE Champions Universe? Welcome to Champions Chat, the first and only podcast dedicated to the WWE Champions mobile app. I'm Rusty Graves, and with me, as always, is Lee Brown. What's up, Lee?
Hey, Rusty. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how'd you like that intro? It's getting a little better, huh?
I know, right? We're doing the reps. You get a little bit better as you go. I like it.
I wrote it down in my notes app and read it like a little manuscript.
Oh, well, isn't that ironic to what we're going to talk about today? But first, how was your Father's Day?
I thought you were going to say, but first, a word from our sponsors. And I was like, oh, man, we have sponsors now. That's incredible. No, Father's Day was good. Father's Day was good. And I would welcome a sponsorship from, we went to Hibachi, and we had Japanese delicious filet and shrimp cooked right in front of us. And, they did the onion volcano, all the hits from Hibachi. How about you?
So this weekend was not only Father's Day, but also my daughter's 8th birthday. So we had family come in from Wyoming. We did the birthday thing, and then we did the Father's Day thing, and then we did the don't sleep a whole lot very thing. And, then we wrapped it up, and hey, now we're to Monday, and I'm a little tired, but still ready to go.
Were you sneaking in some Champions gameplay throughout?
I may have showdowned until I got the Sheik plate. I couldn't get the new plate, but I definitely was able to get the Sheik plate, which is a game changer for my move today on the 6-star Evolution, which was Rocky 76, triple green with Sheik plate. So, yeah. Oh, and I got some Father's Day cash and did a poll, and I actually got 6-star, my first 6-star pull on Shayna Baszler, the Submission Magician. So I got my first 6 pull. I've got 6 stars, but that's the first one I've pulled that way.
Yeah, that's really cool. I enjoyed the Piper Nevin trial. I know some of the feedback in the community was that she was underpowered. I ran triple yellow Piper, and I thought she was a fun superstar to use. I'm excited to see what happens. I did not get the Piper plate, however,
Right.
nor did I pull Piper. But
Nope.
I enjoyed using that superstar, and I thought it was a fun trial, and I knocked out some levels over the course of the weekend.
That's great. Yeah, I enjoyed her style. I thought she was really fun. I was one who found her fairly underwhelming, and I actually struggled, even with flat gym trainers and everything, to get through some of the nodes on her trial. However, game-changing moment, of course, is that plate, because if you got that, not only could she hit for a metric butt ton, but if you have Apollo or DX Triple H, oh my goodness. Apollo went from that's a really annoying character to have on your showdown defense because he's just going to make everyone like cuss and curse because they can't do anything, to, oh, he's going to hit like more than almost anyone else in the game. So things like plates can change your strategy in a moment, which is why, Rusty, you brought to the table a few months back to our faction that we should consider having some sort of a written out plan, whether it's a spreadsheet, a notes app, or a something that would guide us on which moves we're looking to make so that we do things smart. You want to tell us why you brought that to the table?
Well, today's episode, we're talking roster strategy. And my roster strategy that I have found super helpful as an almost free-to-player is I make a budget for my resources each month. And not really a budget per se, as you would think about that you would make for your home finances, but I make a hit list, right? And I decide where I'm going to direct those resources each month. I write out my categories of superstars. I choose, let's say, powerhouse. I decide which powerhouse I'm going to focus on that month, if at all. I do that for all my categories. And then next to that superstar, I write out what color TP they require. So then I go down and I make a list and I write the color of TP and I decide where I'm going to spend that TP. I decide who I'm going to put coins into. I decide what in the t-shirt shop that I'm going to focus on buying, if it's tokens, if it's more TP, right? Whatever it is, I try to really lay out, this is how I want this month to go. And these are my goals that I'm going to see improvement and increases in these specific superstars so that I'm not just freewheeling and throwing resources at whoever excites me in the moment, but so that my overall roster improves strategically. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that is extremely wise because we all know that the game likes to require certain things like CSS of older characters. And, you know, like this month, it's Striker Brock, not the IOW one that's pretty decent, but the old, not great one.
Next big thing.
Yeah, next big thing, right? And Lacey Evans, the Showboat, and neither of those are going to be game changers on your roster. Like if you're just building them because you're like, this is going to be my guy, this is going to be my girl, we're going to move them forward, you're not making a good choice. They're not necessarily great. Now that could change. You know, new plates can change anything instantly, but like if you pick your best or your ones that if you have questions on them, like most of the Discord servers have a roster advice tab. Lean into that. I wish I had it much sooner. But if you pick some that you know are going to take you far and you strategically build them, you're not going to get caught up in, ooh, I just pulled a new C tier and I better throw some coin into it because it's not the best thing. It's not going to give you good results.
That's right. That's right. And so this is something that anybody can do. I mean, there are 6 colors of TP. You know that there are 6 categories of superstar that correlate to those colors. And there are also classes of superstars. And so those classes all take different types of tokens. And so that is a really simple thing. Whatever app, whatever program you're most comfortable with, it could just be a note with words on it that says, I'm going to work on Hall of Fame Jerry Lawler, and this month he's going to get the majority of my purple and yellow TP so that I can move my Hall of Fame roster up the ladder and actually one day, right, get to a 6-star Hall of Famer so I can meet those requirements that are in these events so that I can get more loot to work up more superstars and have a better roster. It's a cycle. You have a strong roster to get strong payouts of the loot so that you can have a stronger roster to have stronger payouts of the loot. It's how you work the system.
It is. And it just makes sense. Like if you're going to, throw a bunch of resources at your Hall of Fame Jerry Lawler, like your hypothetical, and you could get him to 6-star, or you could take two other characters to 4-star. I mean, it's not a question. Like unless the two 4-star ones are, even better by some measure. Like if you focus on one character, get them to where they need to be, and then move on. Now, the trick, of course, is our game releases at least one new character every single week. And so you might get that lucky pull. Neither of us got Piper Niven this weekend, but you might get that lucky pull where you go, oh, this changes my priorities. That's okay. Just, be intentional about that. Don't just throw a little here, throw a little there, and end up with a whole lot of nothing.
That's right. That's right. And I think we've said this in a previous episode is that we want to have more of a rifle approach than a shotgun approach. We want to have a narrow a narrow shot that is accomplishing and hitting specific targets rather than just spraying the field with resources and really seeing a very slow and painful gradual progression with our superstars. And so a lot of superstar strategy, roster strategy, has to do with knowing the superstar's card, right? Lee, you and I talk about this sometimes, how you go into your roster and you click the superstar himself and you look at the back of the card to see what those milestones are for leveling them up, and knowing that when they get to, this is going to be one I'm going to need to get up to 26K so that I can get my yellow flat gem damage up to 12K, right? And so you have to know what they're capable of and know where you want them to be. Do you do that? Do you find yourself doing that often?
Absolutely. So the way I do mine, after you kind of, influence the faction to, hey, this would be a good idea, is I do mine in a notes app, and I actually screenshot. I just take a picture. It looks like a little postage stamp, basically, of the character on the roster, like right on the main screen with their talent level, all that kind of stuff. And then I break it down to where I have, one row on my notes app would be 4 of those little pictures. So I at least have one row, no more than 2 rows of each class. And then I know, okay, I'm working on these 4 to 8 characters. And then I also have another set of those, if they don't fit into that main one, that are the trainers of any class, coaches of any class I need. And then I have my IOWs in a separate one, and my Hall of Fames in a separate one. So I can take a look, and it's very visual. I can take a look and just see in an instant, oh, that's right, I'm working on Zombie Dragon this month. So boom, I know where those go. And then like today, when the TP event reset happens, I take a look at that real quick, and I can scan real quick with my eyes and see the 4 to 6 people that I'm really itching to put resources on. And I go and do that. And if I don't, then oftentimes I'll just scroll through and I'm like, oh, I'm almost to that milestone. Well, I'll just throw, another set of blue TP over here, and then realize, well, now I don't have it for over here. And I was trying to build this character over here. So it just helps stay focused, make better plans, and for me, I enjoy the game that way better. Like when I make stupid moves, I feel stupid, I'm like, why in the
That's
world
right.
did I build that character up? So it kind of
As,
helps the idiot tax.
who's a character that you brought up that you just went, it was like a facepalm moment where you went, why did I do that?
So there are some that are required, like where you have to, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe that I'm doing this one. But early on in the game, and I don't remember which Halloween it was, but I know it was the Halloween event. It was the one where they first did the pumpkins, and your grind reward, if you did the daily login and beat the events, was that you either got Zombie Shinsuke or Zombie AJ Styles. And back in the day, I just really like AJ Styles. And so I
Yeah.
got him. I didn't know my roster. I didn't know what they did. And I just thought, Showboat Army is the way to go. And so I started building up until AJ for like a year was my top guy, and I built him up over everybody else. And come to find out, he's not so good a fighter in the game. Like, actually, there's not a very good AJ Styles in the game at all, but that one in particular, not so good.
And Scopely, if anyone from Scopely is listening today, AJ Styles deserves like a tier S. Come on, give us
right.
You've given us 3 tier S Dominics and 0 AJ Styles at this point.
That's right.
Come on.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, I'm sure the execs at Scopely are listening, and I'm sure they're gonna address this immediately.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, if you're listening, executives at Scopely, sitting on your high hog, eating fat back pig and all that stuff, what I need in the game is a favorites button, because then I wouldn't have to even build out this list. I could just go, oh, look, those are the ones I'm working on, because I favorited them.
Yeah, like in the roster management screen, like if you could sort by favorites or by projects, right? People that you are currently actively investing in, that would be a brilliant addition to that roster management tab.
And I know it's a wild and brand new idea. All I'm asking them to do is to catch up to MySpace, right? If I could have a top 8 even,
top 8.
I'm good.
Top 8, Zombie AJ, not in it any longer.
No, not in the running anymore. Still a really good trainer, but
yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a yellow sub trainer and great. Now, specific to this, like we just said, he's a yellow sub trainer, right? I know everyone out there listening has a different roster. They have different roster capacities. They have different roster resources. But what are a few categories that if you were advising a new player or a player who hasn't really organized or managed their roster very well, what type of trainers, of superstars, what category of do they need to be focused on or thinking about? And let me just mention we've already thrown out one, and I didn't we throw out
Hall of Fame Jerry Lawler?
Well, yeah. So a Hall of Famer, right? A
Yeah.
Hall of Famer would be a category of superstar to where you'd say, who's your best Hall of Famer? Are you at least working one of them up, right? What other categories do we need to be thinking about as far as roster strategy?
Well, Hall of Fame is a good place to start because typically, since they introduced the new gold token Hall of Famers, your older original Hall of Famers are just plain and simple. They're the easiest on your roster to take up. Like, for example, I took Hall of Fame Steve Austin day one that 6-star silver released up to 6-star silver, not because he's a great character. He's okay, but he's not a great move, other than the fact that it was completely resource free because I have so many shards. In fact, I was just looking at it earlier today. I took him 6-star silver. I still have 8,000 shards of that character, and he's gone from nothing to maxed out 6-star silver, at least on the token or the TP cost. So get a Hall of Famer. Some of them are also really good for stip tours. Like Jerry Lawler is my go-to. I took him 6-star, again, the resource-free thing, but also he does really good on purple stip tour and pretty good on yellow stip tour. So you want to be thinking about who on your roster is good in what modes. So feud, you want somebody who can get in there quick, who can hit hard and leave a damage trail. Stip tours, you want to make sure you've got somebody who can throw green, somebody who can throw red, some, et cetera, et cetera. Or if you're one of the lucky who, actually has powerhouse KO relentless, you just use him for stip tour every single day because his damage maxes out and you literally can't lose it. But aside from you, Rusty, I don't have him.
I actually didn't know that hack. This is the first time I've heard that hack. So
that's really helpful. He grows his damage every time, with those trap gems and stuff. So he can win every color stip tour regardless of whether he's making that color or not, because the damage output is just so high.
Well, not only am I a contributor on this podcast, I am also a faithful listener, and I've just learned an invaluable hack for my roster.
That's right. That's right. So you want to be thinking that. You want to be thinking showdown. Your Ghostbusters Cena is kind of the showdown king, but now the way they've changed it to where you have to have one kind of, great character for that in each class. You want to be building them. And then, of course, boss battle. Similarly, it's kind of color based, but then there's also, silence gems. There's that. There's the other. I mean, I know, like, for example, Bloodline Tech, Jimmy Uso. I got him way too late, but like there's been multiple boss battles where he was the good one to use. You figure those things out, get on the Discord, get in the roster discussions, kind of pick a set few that can get everything done. And then lastly, just don't forget about your IOW guys, especially feud promoters. Because your feud promoters, which you get from doing the STIP tours, with the exception of Charlotte, who's on the portal now in a special area, and Undertaker, who I haven't even started going for because I just don't even want to do that grind.
That is the marquee tour,
and
it is impossible.
It's possible. It's just you got to be strapped in for like the Lord of the Rings extended edition, multiple viewings back to back.
Yeah.
But you've got those, and so don't forget about them because your feud promoters in particular. That not only saves you on like getting to the War Score Max, which is a pretty decent set of rewards oftentimes, but it also saves you hours upon hours of your life if you're trying to max that. So it makes a huge difference.
Well, let me combine a category for you. I heard you mention some categories that I would probably categorize them as spammers, right? A yellow gem spammer is going to be invaluable in boss battle when the boss has a yellow gem shield and for Stip Tour. And so, but I would also say that spammer category carries over to people that spam botch gems, people that spam immobile gems like Honky Tonk Man. Those are all becoming really, really valuable boss battle superstars. And so if you have someone that can chuck out any type of gem, I would categorize them as a spammer, and I would say they're important. They're important to be working on, and you may not see the importance yet. And then one day during a boss battle, you'll go, "Oh my gosh, I have a 5-star gold immobile gem spammer that's going to totally wreck the boss because it's going to get 2,000 times multiplier damage on the gem that I can spam." So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I just think it's really important that, especially as we get these new free MLC characters, I'm noticing that a lot of them are spammers. A lot of them just send out one type of gem in large amounts. And I think the long-term plan, if I'm reading between the lines of Scopely, is for them to be valuable in certain areas of the game, like boss battle.
I think so. Yeah, like this month, Theory was kind of a blip on the radar because he is ironically not the now. He's way behind on what he does. And then last month, Lex almost did the exact same thing, give or take. But for the most part, we talk about that plan that you have, that notes sheet, that whatever it is, spreadsheet maybe. You always got to make sure that the free character for that month is in there because I can't tell you how many times I've done a big thing for the week, spent all my coins, spent all my TP, and then completely forgot that I had gotten enough tokens to take the free character up. And now I'm like, okay, do I wait another week when they now have these weekly tours that are tied to it, so they kind of force your hand? Or do I blow through resources I wasn't planning on? So it's always smart, just right at the top of your list, keep that free character until you get them, to the max level, which is usually 4-star gold for the event that month. And then you decide if you want to take them up farther or not. But spoiler, with the exception of a very small number since basically Baron Corbin came out, they are all amazing for the most part.
That's right. Yeah, Dakota Kai, probably the best female superstar in the game, and Scopely was generous enough to give us totally free. And so that's incredible. Hey, Lee,
Zombie Dom, same thing. You know, keep the list
That's
going.
right. Oh, and don't be deceived. I was just looking at my roster. So many of those guys that are like incredible top tier superstars are actually rated a B tier. Like
Yeah,
Zombie Dom is a B. I think if
right,
Scopely gives you a free character, by default they just throw a B on him.
right.
Did they accidentally mess up with Otis and put him an A, and then they corrected it?
Yeah, I think originally both Otis and Chad Gable were listed as A, and then they corrected it. But one of the misconceptions in the community, and we're going to talk tier lists on another episode, but one of the misconceptions in the community on the built-in tier list system that they provided is that a B tier means bad and S tier means amazing. And the reality is all that means to Scopely is how rare the shards are.
Right.
So if you get an S tier, it may or may not be incredible. I know like several people in our faction just got Veer. Veer is not considered a very strong fighter. Good trainer, not a very strong fighter, but an S tier. Whereas everybody was given Zombie Dom and Baron Corbin, and they're both B tier. But to be quite honest, they hit like S or even S plus tier if you've got a couple of tricks. Baron Corbin doesn't really need any tricks. Dom just needs a few, and then they can really wreck shop.
That's right. I kind of think of it like I play Magic the Gathering a lot, and so they have like the card tiers like mythic, rare, uncommon, common. Like I think that overlays really nicely into like just because a card is a mythic in Magic doesn't mean it's going to be the most powerful card at the table. Same thing with
Right.
like a S tier zombie Triple H. Like there, I'm working on my striker Bobby Lashley, and like Triple H. I'm working on my striker Honky Tonk Man, and Zombie Triple H is just sitting there because he's slow as molasses, even with his new gear. He's probably not the guy you want to be pushing up unless something really dramatic happens with a plate or with a mod to him. So
That's right. So let me ask you this. We've talked about the building out the colors. We've talked about building out by the classes, and we've talked about like keeping track of who uses what resource. Who are you currently working on, Rusty? Like, what does your top line look like for these are my priorities?
my priorities right now is I am one Macho Man crown token away from taking Baron Corbin 6 star. So I need that token. And at this point, I think the easiest and best way forward to get that is going to be for my Champions Club membership, the
Yeah, King
tours.
of Kings fast.
I'm gonna be able to get to 10,000 King of Kings coins to buy that crown within the next month or two, quicker, I think, unless I have a lucky pull, like a lucky bag and it's in it, or unless it's a guaranteed like node reward. So Baron's up there. Honky Tonk Man, the free. So these are two free Scopely guys that I'm working up. The Striker Honky Tonk Man is my best boss battle team healer. I always call him the healer honky. And so I'm buying this. I don't know if we've just got, if our rating has just extended into PG-13 now for saying that. But I am buying boss battle defensive coins for him. And I am 3 Undertaker hat tokens away from taking Honky Tonk to 6 star. I am also continuing to work on my Showboat British Bulldog because he's my best new gen superstar. I have just recently brought up Hall of Fame Lawler because he is my best Hall of Famer, and he's a versatile spammer as well for boss battle for is it purple gems that he spams out.
Purple and
And
yellow. Yeah.
yeah, and then on the female side of the card, I've got a Lundra Blaze that have been working on. She might be my best female, other than the Dakota Kai that I haven't got to invest much in Dakota because so much of the stuff I needed for her has been going into Happy Corbin. So as
Right.
a free to play player, my top line right now is IOW Kurt Angle is, and he's incredible. I love him. And now with the Green Gym Flat Damage, I am working on Powerhouse Booker T to get his all of his green gems to 12K. So Powerhouse Booker T's got to come up
Trainer
to
ability.
5-star goal. Yeah, his trainer ability, his flat
Yeah.
gem 12K trainer. So that's what it's looking like for me. Right, I've got IOW Brock at like 5-star silver, but I just can't put resources into him yet. But he'll probably be in the next month or two.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, for me, like having this system we're talking about really helped for my trickster class, because a year ago I would have said my trickster class was the absolute weakest of all of the ones I had in the game. And now I have like 50 cars trying to merge onto a 1-lane highway. Like, it is a mess. And so I've had to kind of balance that. Similarly, my Dakota Kai has taken a back seat because I pulled Zombie Bianca. I like to call her Zombianca, not Zianca, but it's fun either way. I got Zombie Dragon. I've got my Knoxville. I've got a few other characters that surprised me in there. And so this way of managing resources that we're talking about is helping me, because now that I've gotten Zombianca and Zombie Dragon to 6-star, I could go back and work on Goat Becky, who I pulled late last year and was so excited about, but then started getting some better other ones. And I would love to take her up, but if I allow myself to get distracted on that, then I'm not going to have the resources I need to take Knoxville to 6-star silver, which he's my current priority to get. I call it the hard way because it's not the Hall of Fame or IOW tokens. He's my first priority to take hard way 6-star silver.
Is he your best overall superstar?
I wouldn't say he's my best. Like, he doesn't hit the hardest. I mean, he hits hard, but definitely not the hardest. But he is super versatile. So this kind of goes back to the discussion we were having a few minutes ago. Like, he does an amazing job in multiple modes. He's not the fastest feuder, but he's hard to lose. Like, he's hard for me to lose with. Same with showdown mode. He can definitely work blue or purple stip tours. He's amazing on boss battle. I can't tell you how many times the boss battle has been where I'm like, hold on, I'll hop in with my Knoxville, and people are like, you sure we could do this? I'm like, I could do a level 12 by myself. Don't worry about it. He just, boom, he just kills it. And especially, some of the variables in there, like I happen to get 100% gem damage strap for him. I've now got a set of Fury 2 medals on him. I've got a plate that helps him a little bit. There's not really too many that bump him in a big way, but help. And so I've just got some of those bells and whistles. So him going to 6-star silver is a no-brainer, but you have to pre-plan, you have to pre-decide, because otherwise I could very easily get excited about Go Becky and Dakota Kai and 100 others. Those two are top of my list though. Or like the new Asuka, like I got the Trickster Asuka when she came out. She is not good, by the way, but she has an amazing trainer ability. But if I take her to 6-star, I'm not taking Dakota to 6-star. And if I take the two of them to 6-star, I'm not taking Johnny Knoxville to 6-star silver for a while. So it's just that trade-off. It's balancing and budgeting.
I've been thinking about a few other categories we probably should cover in this episode, and one is if you're out there as a new player, and new meaning this, if you don't have every TP trainer to 5K yet, that should probably be the top priority of your roster strategy. The TP trainers like Lawler and George Steele and Sting, and this is such a
Xavier Woods like, 1 and Xavier Woods 2.
We probably overlook that simple advice because we haven't needed to work up a TP trainer in years, right? And yet there's probably some new listeners out there trying to get a little bit of an advantage by listening to us going, oh, I didn't know that was important. How important is just those basic TP trainers to 5K?
Oh, yeah. I mean, TP trainers and the flat gym trainers, like we're talking about, those alone can take any character in the game and make them better. And when we talk about like, hey, here's these amazing characters and stuff, I mean, I know when I used to like watch Gersan's videos and Merrick's videos and DJ's videos, and they display this new character every week that was going to change the world. And I'm like, oh, I got to have them. Well, the reality is any character in the game can realistically beat any other character in the game given the right situations. You get the right levels built up, you get the plates, you get the various things, but a lot of that is having the right trainers. And so if you're going to build up a healthy roster, that's a great shout, Rusty, right there.
Well, a couple of other categories of trainers that you should be prioritizing if you've not already is the gym generate trainers. Gym generate trainers create, like let's say you have a yellow gym, create 2 extra yellow gyms, right? And then you work up that Dolph Ziggler that creates 4 more additional yellow gyms. Suddenly your guy is doing more than you ever thought possible because the gym generate trainer, which is probably just as important as the TP trainer early on to new players. And then you look at the another category would be your gym destroy trainers, right? Lee, you got some of those for us?
I don't have them in front of me to list, but you're right. I mean, you have characters who have a card ability that says, destroy X number of purple gems, and you add that on, it just builds up your damage. Or the great example for what you're talking about with the generate trainers is going to Showboat Montez Ford. He was pretty rare when he first came out. He was a chase character, but it seems like a lot of people are getting him nowadays, and his big move set is the one where the number of purple gems on the board is how much damage you're going to do. And so having, in that case, they just did the free version of Dawkins, but having that free version of Dawkins in there, and there's one other that can do it as well. I think it's Daniel Bryan, the old Daniel Bryan. But if you have the in there, I mean, it makes him hit like 20, 30, 40% harder than he would without it. So absolutely critical.
Yeah, like a gym destroy. Like an old example would be if you've got that Showboat Andre the Giant, and you throw like DDP on him, he can really wreck the board. Now this is about a 4-year-old example,
Right.
but there was a time where Showboat Andre was the most feared guy in in a feud because he would just put you into submission and it was unrecoverable just about, and it would take
Yep.
forever to beat Andre.
Absolutely.
Nostalgic example there for you guys. Any other categories that people need to be thinking about as far as like as they're moving the needle up on their roster? Is there anything that we haven't covered that you may still be thinking about?
There's nothing additionally. I mean, just kind of reiterating, like make sure you have somebody you've got for each mode, gym chuckers that'll go across multiple modes, and your trainers. Your trainers and coaches' abilities are key. Even if a card is horrifyingly bad and you never want to have to deal with it again, you still want to build up their trainer ability because it might make the card you really do care about that much better.
So let's do one like case study, for example. Is if someone out there is wondering, okay, how can I do this? Let's take Ghostbuster Cena
Yep.
as if the best person on your roster is Ghostbuster Cena, and he's sitting down at like 4-star gold right now, right? That means if you're starting to create a list for how to improve Ghostbuster Cena, um, he's going to start getting. You'd put on your hit list, maybe top overall Ghostbuster Cena, acro Ghostbuster Cena. His move set is red, black, blue. So you would start saying TP red Cena, TP black Cena, TP blue Cena, tokens Cena, and then you would start looking at his trainers. I know
Yep.
the trainers are oftentimes forgotten about, but like Ridge Holland, right, would be maybe you'd slot him in your powerhouse. Um, but if you're taking Cena to 6-star,
You
do you
want
remember the other?
Ridge.
Yeah, yeah. Because what's the deal? You've brought Ridge up really high. What are you seeing on Cena with his trainer?
Well, so I happen to have and then get all of Cena's key trainers. And so, like, you've got essentially Ridge, which replaced the need for the King of Kings pass spot, because otherwise you needed him there. Does like 100% more damage for countdown gems. So that's going to make Cena's per countdown gem hit twice as hard. And then you need people who create those. So right off the bat, you're talking Acro Jimmy. You're talking Zombie Rhea, and you're talking Veteran Salute Cena. And for me, Veteran Salute was the one that eluded me forever. And so I finally got him. But if you have those, I mean, he's legitimately hitting, pretty well 5 to 6 million every turn, and he's unnerfable. Now, 5 to 6 million in the 6-star market isn't as hard, and that move won't scale double like gem damage will. But even still, he's a great utility. I mean, he's one that you could throw on and have, beat pretty much anyone. It's just going to take a little bit longer than it did before. But yeah, if you're building up Acro Cena, then you also want to put in your list, okay, I need Rich Holland. If you've got these ones, I need Jimmy, who's also an acro. So now I got to make sure I'm managing my tokens, managing my blue TP, Zombie Rhea, and Veteran Salute Cena. And then that kind of creates the complete picture for what it looks like for Ghostbuster Cena. But don't be afraid, even if you're missing some of those guys, to build up the character you want, because ultimately the game should be fun. Like, it shouldn't just be a utilitarian experience.
That's right. You should not delay building a superstar just because you don't have his optimal trainers, right? You might see a preview on a Mirix video and go, "Well, I don't have those. I don't have Zombie Ray, so I may as well not build him." But no, that's crazy because these guys are still doing major damage, and they really matter in the meta, whether you have the complete puzzle or not. And the reason I threw out Ghostbuster Cena is because he's a free guy that everybody
Yep.
got fairly recently, right? And then his key trainers are also people that many of us have gotten recently in the meta.
Yep. Yep. And they always seem to make them more available too. So you're getting more opportunities for those characters that are more rare. Probably Zombie Rhea is going to be the one that's going to be hardest for most, because she usually only pops up twice a year during the zombie events.
Yeah, I don't have her. I don't have her, but I've got like a move or some kind of trainer just for additional damage there. Um, Well, hey, I think we might be coming to an end of our roster strategy episode, but as always, we talk through WWE for a few minutes, and this weekend is one of my favorite pay-per-views, Money in the Bank.
It is. It's such a fun concept. I think Chris Jericho claims he invented it. Edge maybe has claim to it, but either way, when they do it right, Money in the Bank is just a killer idea. So they've ruined the way they do the women's, because the last several years, the women's cash in has happened within 24 hours every single time. So that doesn't build anticipation well. But we kind of mentioned it on the last episode. Like, imagine he's not in it, but imagine, Dominic Mysterio had gotten Money in the Bank and held it for an entire year. Or imagine this scenario: Dom gets Money in the Bank, Cody finishes the story at WrestleMania 40, and Dom immediately cashes in and wins the title. All of a sudden, he is the most hated person in the history of WWE,
I'm already
and
sick
that's all
even
allowed
thinking
by
about
that little
that.
contract stipulation.
So I got nauseous just even considering that scenario just now. So you're right. He would be the most hated heel of all time, and he would get that go away heat that I think he's getting, even more so, booed out of the building. Lee, do you think that the Money in the Bank briefcase serves as kind of a title in and of itself?
I mean, I think it can. Like, I think you've mentioned before, the big thing with some of the characters is like, oh, I've never actually won Money in the Bank, and so I need that added into my, CV, so to speak. But I don't know if it counts on the same level as a title, but it certainly gives that person the level of interest that tells you, hey, I should care about this guy or girl. Because if they've got that briefcase, at least there's the potential that they could be the next world champion. Now, again, they've kind of, the way Austin Theories went down, the way Otis's went down, which then became the Miz's, which, etc. They've done some wonky stuff, but in general, that just amps up the level of interest. And especially on a reign like Romans's, Romans's reign. Yeah, it's a bad pun. But, you need something that drives interest, because while the Bloodline story is phenomenal, you're going to get bored with Roman being the captain for so long and just going undefeated. So Money in the Bank just gives you a glimmer of hope.
The greatest Money in the Bank male and female carriers, in my opinion, female Carmella, who made it her identity and still uses the phrase Mella is money. Like, I love it. I love that her ring attire became money. I love that she owned the briefcase. To me, it was a title reign when Carmella had the briefcase. And then the greatest heist in the history of wrestling, Seth Rollins running out at WrestleMania to cash in on Roman and Brock. That might have been the greatest WrestleMania moment of all time. And then flinging the belt around his head like a helicopter.
Right.
Unbelievable. 10 out of 10. Chef's
10
kiss.
out of 10. Would recommend to a friend. And that, the heist of the century, is just the perfect example of what the Money in the Bank allows. Because in that WrestleMania in particular, that was like Roman Brock 2 or 3 out of like 35. And we were already tired of seeing those two fight, and nobody really wanted to see either Roman or Brock win. And so all of a sudden you have Seth come out, and now the crowd went from being like, oh, it's going to be Roman again, to like ecstatic because something just crazy happened that you weren't even imagining was possible.
Yeah.
It's great.
They really outdid themselves with that WrestleMania. That might have been peak WWE creative. I'm not sure if they can ever get back. That, or like the Kurt Angle mimicking the Austin beer truck, like the Angle milk truck arrival, was peak WWE creative. Like, I don't know that they could. That was like so meta in and of itself that I don't know that they could ever outdo something like that again. But
Absolutely.
What are you thinking about? You got predictions? Anything changed with you as far as thinking that LA Knight is going to win the men's Money in the Bank this weekend?
No, other than the fact that for whatever reason, Vince is allergic to people getting over that he doesn't want or didn't plan. And like, this is one of those stories. So it's like, I don't know if it adds to the drama and intrigue and it makes it more exciting, or if it almost just makes it more deflating that they're like, okay, maybe they're throwing LA Knight in there just to shut the fans up. And then when he doesn't win, they're going to be like, oh yeah, see, you weren't really actually behind him that much. But the reality is, like, it almost takes a Daniel Bryan level movement, like the yes movement, to get someone to get it through to Vince. So that's my concern going into it. The other concern would be that they throw like a Brock in the Bank kind of thing where Mustafa Ali is all of a sudden out of the match, and then Brock Lesnar comes back and wins. Like, maybe it's not Brock this time, but it just seems like unless they go with LA Knight or Damian Priest, there's just not that's going to be the guy this year.
Right.
So
yeah, that Brock Money in the Bank was probably, if there was peak W creative, that was like the worst. That was like the low. That was so predictable, so terrible. And yet Brock totally redeemed himself by making the briefcase a boombox and coming out and like head bobbing and it being hilarious. So who would have
we
thought
picked
that
on
would have been
Brock
possible?
Lesnar for that last episode, but it got me thinking because of that. Stone Cold Steve Austin, although I historically, outside life of the ring aside, Hulk Hogan is wrestling to me in my childhood. But Stone Cold, of course, is the one that everybody goes, okay, that is the peak of wrestling. You realize that was 97 to at most like 2002.
Yeah.
And Brock has been the top guy for 20 years now.
Yep.
WrestleMania 20 is when he retired last time. So you could safely say WrestleMania 19 was kind of peak Brock early age. And he has been the top guy for 20 years. That is double, triple, and then some what Stone Cold's popularity was in that. Now, Stone Cold was more popular in a microcosm, in a moment, but 20 years, that's actually quite impressive.
It is. It's impressive. It's as impressive as the world's best vanilla ice cream, where it is. That's a good vanilla, right? But it's still vanilla, and it sucks, and it's second to all the other flavors that actually have flavor. So that's where I think Brock's reign in WWE is going to go down. As like, that was vanilla bean extraordinaire, and yet every other likable guy will be remembered and celebrated way more than Rena Miro's husband, as Brock Lesnar will always be.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, other than The Undertaker, there's very few that have that immediate, like, boom. You used to have the gong, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, the conversation just changed. And now it's the dun, 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 dun. You're like, okay, something's about to go down. Like, it's gonna, because, again, if for nothing else, whether Brock Lesnar's the toy we want Vince to play with or not, he's the one he keeps going back to the toy box to. So at the very least, you're like, okay, Brock's out. Something interesting is going to happen because Vince is like, oh, that's a good storyline. Why don't we just give it over to Brock Lesnar?
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it. I'll never like Brock. And again, so Dan Severn, Dan the Beast. They tried it with Ken Shamrock, this crossover athlete who has a reputation of mixed martial arts, and it's just so unbelievable. And the same is true with Ronda Rousey. It's just so unbelievable that that we would actually like them in the fictional world of pomp and circumstance that is the WWE universe. Like, I don't, I just, it seems like it's a marketing gimmick to attract people new to the brand with a big name. And that's all it really is. So.
Yeah, but like it or not, that's what's worked across history. I mean, that was the gotcha for WrestleMania 1. Mr. T's going to be there. Ali's going to be there. Liberace's going to be there. That's the gotcha for, Raw for years, like the guest host. And yeah, the guest host arguably had more clout that day than any of the superstars on the roster. And that's silly. But it was like, oh, hey, Hugh Jackman's going to be hosting Raw. I want to see Wolverine beat somebody up. And, there it is. Or like when Snoop Dogg comes out and beats the 2-time double grand champion, The Miz, in one move because Shane McMahon blew his legs out. Like, it's like, oh, did you see what Snoop Dogg did? Like, it's gonna get buzz.
Kudos to Snoop Dogg. That was a great save. Like, that was an entertainer with supreme intelligence that took to do that. Kudos to Snoop. I mean, like, that could have made the entire WrestleMania a flop if he would not have had quick thinking and sprung to action. That was a wonderful move by an experienced entertainer, and I'm yet to see a wonderful move by an experienced entertainer in Brock Lesnar. So
I don't know. He knocked himself out one time, and that was pretty entertaining. The shooting star press gone wrong. But anyway, if you listen to this podcast, you know that Brock Lesnar hate is a weekly occurrence. He is still trying to track down Rusty's address. So please keep Rusty in the witness protection program, because for all the trash talk we throw, if Brock Lesnar showed up on our doorstep tomorrow, we'd be changing our underwear, if not our dentures,
No
in
doubt.
that moment. So
I don't know that he'd be able to address me without Paul Heyman there to speak for him, though. So I don't know if I'd be too scared.
just keep digging that hole.
Brock Lesnar would ring my doorbell, and then Paul Heyman would say, "Excuse me,
may I have your attention?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all right.
Lesnar wouldn't know what to say,
My thought to end on for me, though, okay, back when I was a kid, wrestling was like the greatest thing ever. And then I got out of it for a while. And then my buddies were all in during the Attitude Era. And WCW was the go-to. Like, that was it. And so we went to a live show in Casper, Wyoming, where I was growing up. It was the episode where DDP got arrested. Like, they still talk about it on documentaries sometimes. And we saw a dark match that was Goldberg versus the Giant. And afterwards, I remember thinking, like, this guy, it looks like he's about as dumb as a truck. And I remember making this, like, joke of, like, I could picture him working at McDonald's being like, do I put the fries in the grease or the butter? I don't know. But then if he shows up at your door, he's going to kill you. Now, I have a lot of respect for Goldberg. My mom actually tracked him down one time, got a picture of him, story for another time. But that's the way you're referring to Brock. Like, he's a utility knife, but he is dull as all get out.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to end for today. If you haven't done so yet, would you give our little podcast here a like, a subscribe, a review, a 5-star rating? Give us some love. Share it with your faction. If you're not in our faction, the Black Pearl, share it with yours. And especially for new players, that's why we do this, to help the new guy who's just trying to figure this game out still. And we're not the experts, but we feel like we have access to the knowledge base to be able to pass on pretty helpful information. So with all that to say, this is Rusty and Lee, and we'll see you on the next episode of Champions Chat.
Have fun, smash gems.